An interesting moment in Slumdog Millionaire, directed by Danny Boyle, is the blinding of Arvind, an orphan child, by Mammon and Panus. This moment is interesting because it is so disturbing. This scene reveals how many orphan children are exploited in India instead of being protected by the adults. The film tells the story of Jamal being protected by the adults. Lighting is dramatically shown in this moment in the film. It takes place at night where heavy shadow and cold light create a threatening atmosphere. The use of light was interesting because it showed how terrifying and sinister Mammon's intentions were. For the scene, Mammon's face was only half visible or had shadows covering his face. This makes the viewer feel that Mammon wasn't a good man exploiting the children. This was interesting because orphanages are meant to take care of children, but Mammon is doing the opposite, and it is instead an orphanage of fear. Lighting also shows how innocent and unknowing Salim was before he made his decision to be a man. Golden lighting is also used on Arvind to make him appear innocent in contrast to Mammon, whose face is half in shadows, and colder lighting is used to show him as an evil person. This moment is a turning point for Salim, which is shown through the use of dialogue. Mammon's speech to Salim is what provokes him to become Mammon and Panus's dog. Mammon convinces Salim to become his follower. "Listen, kid, it's decision time. You want the life of a slum dog or the life of a man, huh? A real man. A gunfighter. Your destiny is in your hands, brother. You can be like me." Or spits on the ground. Understand? What Mammon says to Salim is interesting, because it shows us how Salim become Mammon's dog. By presenting the choices as either having the life as a slum dog or as a man. As Salim is a child in this scene, he decides to take the path of the real man, which is acting as Mammon's dog. The dialogue in this scene makes the viewer feel that although Salim escaped Mammon with Jamal on a train, he would later end up working for Mammon again sometime later in the story. This is also interesting because it can be linked with the theme of fate/destiny in this film. Making a choice, although Mammon doesn't give much choice to Salim in this particular scene, becomes a recurring aspect in this film. The tension of this moment is heightened at first by the absence of music. The scene starts when the gas light is lit. Throughout the scene, the sound of gas flaring is used to show the harshness of the scene. Arvind does not know what is going to happen to him, and the gas being lit is also used as foreshadowing, as the fire is being used to heat up the acid which will blind him. While golden lighting makes Arvind appear innocent, the scene is not innocent at all. This absence of music along with eerie sound effects builds the creepy atmosphere for this scene. This makes the viewer feel even more disturbed, as sound is an effective way of creating any kind of atmosphere in film. The dog barking in the background is an example of foreshadowing. This sound effect plays strategically as Salim enters the scene. The dog barking as Salim approaches foreshadows how Salim will end up working as Mammon's dog later in the film. After the horrific blinding of Arvind takes place and Salim is ordered to bring Jamal to Mammon, he plans to run away from the orphanage. Boyle uses fast-paced music when Salim throws the chloroform on Panus to drive the scene into an intense runaway. The music builds to a climax when Jamal and Salim are on the train and Latika grabs Salim's hand in an effort to board with them. The music dies out after Salim lets go of Latika's hand and leaves her behind. The use of sound and music in this scene is interesting because it helps show the intensity of the children running away. It adds to the creepiness of the blinding of Arvind. The absence of music when the innocent Arvind is put out and then blinded creates an atmosphere which also makes this scene very memorable. The absolute horror and tragedy shown at this moment in the film of the exploitation of innocent, orphan children by evil adults is made both interesting and memorable by the use of extreme lighting, the use of disturbing dialogue and sound to create suspense to the viewer. It makes us grateful that vulnerable children in New Zealand are not used or hurt in a horrible way like in Slumdog Millionaire.